Hi, gang. Hello, hello, everybody on this Monday. Are you ready to rock and roll? Here is your Monday poll question at Smerconish.com. Would you support a reduced sentence for Ghislaine Maxwell if her testimony resulted in the conviction of other sex offenders? I worded it carefully. I think the question requires some suspension of belief, but I'll address it in just a moment. Thank you to my friends at Play Gun Lake. Summertime is here. The beach, the boat, the lake, the great outdoors. Enjoy casino action and sports betting wherever you are all summer long. Is today really the 4th of August? Holy smokes. Wherever you are in the great state of Michigan, you can enjoy the Play Gun Lake online casino app. Live betting is better. The sports action is better when you've got some skin in the game. You can bet player performances, game props, and more. And whether your team wins or loses, there's always another way for you to benefit. It's the only app that I ever use and recommend to bet on sports in the great state of Michigan, right in the palm of my hand with my smartphone. Plus, check out the new games on the Play Gun Lake app, Huff and More Puff, the Mega Fire Blaze, Dwarves and Goblins, the Flintstones, plus Money Horse. So they've got all your faves, and new users can get up to a $1,000 casino bonus back if you're down in the first 24 hours. Right now, go to playgunlake.com and download the app. Enjoy all the action and excitement from the casino right at your fingertips. You love to play. You play to win. You bet. Play Gun Lake. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER and enjoy Play Gun Lake. So I should mention I'm in Boston today. Prestigious speaking invitation for me to dispense my mingle thoughts to no less than the National Conference of State Legislators. And if I can reach an audience like that and provide my thoughts on the need for us to reestablish common experience, these are state legislators, thousands of them from all across the country. I'm really looking forward to that. And one of the other things that I'll be doing is interviewing in a fireside chat-like environment Robin Vos, who is the Speaker of the Wisconsin State House. So that's pretty cool as well. And I think you might find this interesting. The interview with Speaker Vos is going to focus on the political tone of the day and an emphasis on political violence. And I'm reflecting on Saturday's CNN program as I had here on POTUS. I had Maya Sulkin, who wrote a great essay for the Free Press, talking about the execution a week ago today of Wesley LePatner, the 43-year-old mom, the Blackstone executive, the charitable, by all accounts, just solid citizen. And Maya Sulkin wrote that essay bringing to light that in the not so dark corners of the web, there were people celebrating her execution, much as some did when on 54th Street, a healthcare executive was gunned down. I hate to say the guy's name, but you know who I'm thinking of. I know that Speaker Vos wants to ask me my opinion of how did we get where we are today? And I'm thinking that as I answer that question, I'm going to say, well, let's assess where we are right now. And my best evidence in terms of how bad things have become, not only what happened in Minnesota with the execution of the state legislator, but what happened a week ago and how this is being celebrated. And previously, those thoughts, I'm sure, would have existed. The internet is an accelerant on that burning fire, but the fact that people would identify themselves when Maya Sulkin tracked them down and speak on the record is the most stunning of all. She was a great television guest. I had a good CNN program on Saturday, and I was so thrilled to launch successfully from my new television studio in the Philly Burbs. Did you hear that part when I said I'm Michael Smerconish in the Philly Burbs? I will tell you, and I'll speak at length on this when I'm back on radio air, 24 minutes before going on air, we didn't have a connection. Through no fault of the local connection, there was like a technical glitch in Atlanta. But I was a little white-knuckled as I was beginning that maiden voyage, but it all turned out well. But here's something that was really shocking, at least to me, from the Saturday program. Poll question, agree or disagree? This was the Saturday poll question. It is in the political best interests of Democrats, to publicly give President Trump credit when he accomplishes something with which they concur. And 54,224 voted. If you watch the program, and this kind of went a bit viral on its own, at the end of the program, what we do in the final segment, it's usually just a 2 or a 3 minute segment, is we come up on the poll result as it then exists. So my producer, Catherine, said to me, do you have a prediction? This was off air in the commercial break. Do you have a prediction as to how this one is going to turn out? And I said, I don't have a strong feeling, but I think I know. And I said, don't tell me. So the camera comes back on me for the final segment. I have a New York Times handy, and I put it in front of my eyes because that was going to be up on the screen, the result. And I predicted that I thought it would be like a 2/3 vote disagreeing with my premise that it's in the best interest politically of Democrats to every once in a while agree with President Trump. On what, Michael? Well, on the fact that it's a good thing the borders are no longer porous, or that the NATO allies are now taking their contribution from 2% to 5%. Those were two examples that I gave, and Rahm Emanuel was my guest, and we talked about it thereafter. But lo and behold, I was right on the 2/3, but not on the way that it swung. It was 76.31% who agreed with the proposition that I was advocating, agreeing with me, agreeing with Brett Stevens, agreeing with Mark Halpern, agreeing with Bill Maher, because all of us said something similar in that regard. So huge voting, and I just wanted to button that up. Today's Monday poll question: would you support a reduced sentence for Ghislaine Maxwell if her testimony resulted in the conviction of other sex offenders? And I'm being a little too parsnickety on the poll question because I don't think it's possible. I do not think it possible. Too much time has gone off the clock, and she is too damaged of a witness. Well, then why are you asking this question? I'm asking this question because she's just been moved from a federal detention center in Florida to a minimum security prison in Texas. We learned that at the end of the week. It's called Bryan. It's among the facilities with the lowest level of security in the federal system. Remember Theranos? Remember Elizabeth Holmes? Maybe you followed the case in the news. Maybe you watched the movie. Interestingly, Holmes is in this minimum facility. And with regard to Maxwell, based on her conviction and sentence, she's an unusual candidate to be transferred to federal prison camp. Bureau of Prison guidelines say that inmates who have more than 10 years remaining on their sentence are not typically eligible for a minimum security prison. Virginia Giuffre's family, tragic outcome. She committed suicide. She was an Epstein and Maxwell victim. She says the justice system is failing victims right before our eyes. Why has she been moved? I don't think it's rocket science to believe that she's been moved because President Trump is trying to sweeten the pot and get her to do what? Point a finger in directions other than his. That's what I think that this is all about. But even if she is to do so, I don't think it can result in any credible testimony that would lead to convictions. Ankush Karduri wrote a good piece for Politico. I had it in the newsletter over the weekend, pointing out that the grand jury transcripts that get discussed a great deal probably are of no significance here, because we learned that they only contain two witnesses who testified before the grand jury, an FBI agent and an NYPD detective. There's just not going to be a lot of information forthcoming there about other bad actors. And Ankush pointed out in the Political essay that as for Ghislaine Maxwell, she's a, quote, particularly bad candidate to serve as a government cooperator. It's unlikely the Justice Department engagement with her will generate any credible information that the government can credibly rely or act upon. Why does he say that? Because the conduct at issue is so old, going back more than 3 decades, that it would be difficult to corroborate her claims Over time, witnesses' memories fade, documents become harder to track down, and of course, Maxwell has an obvious incentive to lie, to try and save her own skin, both by pointing the finger at others and downplaying Epstein's connection to people who are politically aligned with Trump. I said last week, the mission of Todd Blanche in going to interview Ghislaine Maxwell was to come back with names other than Trump's. Also, if the administration were to take a deal in return for her testifying, I think it would just confirm all of the suspicions that are held by some MAGA supporters of Trump who are now concerned about what he's up to. And as I've said, and as Philip Bump said, putting Trump on the opposite side of the ledger from the populist support that he's had, and now in the camp of the elites who they despise. So, okay, for all those reasons, I say that it never happens. It never happens. Well, let me be specific, that Ghislaine Maxwell provides testimony that causes someone to be locked up. I don't think it's possible. Now, I'll play along with the poll question. Would I support a reduced sentence for her if her testimony resulted in the conviction of other sex offenders? I could, as long as we're not letting her out scot-free. No pardon. Commute her sentence. I don't know. It would have to be really big. How about this? If she provided testimony that led to significant charges against President Trump, then I guess you'd have to say it's worth it. But that's not going to happen either. Enjoy today's poll question. Go cast a ballot on it. Would you support a reduced sentence for Ghislaine Maxwell if her testimony resulted in the conviction of other sex offenders? It requires a little suspension of belief, but it's a good question nonetheless. So go have at it right now at smerconish.com. It's the poll question of the day. And for the benefit of those watching on YouTube, will you please like and subscribe, and set yourself up for notifications. Thank you.